Welcome to Drift into History. Tonight we will gently travel back through time, thousands of years into the past, to a quiet place beside one of the most famous rivers in the world, the Nile. Imagine standing beside the river. The day is slowly coming to an end. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting a warm golden light across the water. The desert stretches far into the distance, endless sand, soft hills, and quiet silence. Palm trees stand along the edge of the river, their long leaves moving gently in the evening breeze. The air is warm but comfortable, and the world feels calm. The water of the Nile flows slowly. Soft ripples move across the surface, reflecting the fading colors of the sky. A small wooden boat drifts quietly along the river, its sail hanging loosely in the still air. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls softly. The sound echoes across the open landscape. Near the riverbank, a small village rests beside the water. Homes built from sun-dried mud bricks stand close together, their walls glowing softly in the warm evening light. Smoke rises slowly from cooking fires. Oil lamps begin to glow inside doorways. Families gather together after a long day of work. The sounds of quiet conversation drift through narrow paths between homes. Children sit beside their parents, listening to stories, or watching the last light of the day disappear behind the desert hills. Life here moves slowly, peacefully, and always in rhythm with the river. For thousands of years, the Nile has shaped every part of life in this land. The rising of the river, the planting of crops, the growing of food, the gathering of families. Everything follows the same gentle rhythm. Tonight, we will not focus on powerful kings or great battles. Instead, we will explore something quieter, the simple daily life of the people who lived here. Farmers who worked beside the river, craftsmen who shaped clay and wood into useful tools, families who gathered together each evening beneath the desert sky. As we move slowly through this peaceful world, allow your mind to relax. Take a slow breath. Let the noise of the modern world fade away. Allow your thoughts to drift, like the slow-moving water of the Nile, and gently, quietly drift into history. Long before cities, long before great monuments, and long before the famous pyramids were built, the Nile was already flowing through the desert. Year after year, season after season, the river moved slowly northward, carrying water from distant mountains, across a land that would otherwise have been dry and lifeless. Without the Nile, Egypt would have been nothing but desert. To the west stretches the Sahara, a vast ocean of sand dunes rising and falling across the landscape, endless waves of golden color beneath the sun. To the east lie rocky hills and dry valleys, leading toward the distant Red Sea. Rain rarely falls in this land. Sometimes many months pass without a single drop. But the Nile changes everything. Flowing from distant highlands far to the south, the river travels more than 4,000 miles before reaching the Mediterranean Sea. Along its long journey, the Nile brings life to the desert. Each year something remarkable happens. During the late summer months, the river begins to rise. Heavy rains far to the south cause the water to swell. Slowly, quietly, the Nile spreads across the surrounding land. Fields beside the river become covered with water. To many civilizations, flooding would bring fear, but to the people of ancient Egypt, the flood was a blessing, because when the water slowly retreats, it leaves behind something precious. Rich dark soil filled with nutrients, perfect for growing crops. The Egyptians even gave their land a special name, Kemet, the Black Land, a name that described the fertile earth left behind by the flood. Beyond this narrow strip of life lay the Red Desert, the Deshret, the land of sand and stone. Everything in Egyptian life depended on the Nile: food, travel, trade, and even religion. The river was not simply water, it was the heart of the entire civilization. Morning arrives slowly along the Nile. At first, the sky is still dark, deep blue stretches quietly across the horizon, only a few faint stars remain, shining softly above the desert. The air feels cool and calm, much cooler than it will be later in the day. A gentle breeze moves slowly across the river. The surface of the Nile ripples softly, tiny waves catching the first hints of morning light. Along the river bank, palm trees stand tall and silent, their long leaves rustling gently in the early wind. The village beside the river is still quiet. Most people are asleep. Inside the small mud brick homes, families rest peacefully. Some sleep on simple wooden beds, others sleep on woven mats laid across the floor. The thick mud brick walls keep the cool air inside, protecting the homes from the intense heat that will come later. Slowly, the first signs of dawn begin to appear. A faint glow rises in the eastern sky. The darkness softens. Blue turns slowly into pale gold. Warm light spreads gently across the horizon. Birds begin to wake. Small birds move through the palm trees. Their quiet calls echo across the still morning air. A rooster crows somewhere in the village. The sound travels across the quiet streets, announcing the beginning of a new day. One small door opens, then another. People begin to wake. Inside one home, a woman rises quietly from her bed. She steps softly across the room, careful not to wake the younger children. Outside in the courtyard, the morning air feels fresh and peaceful. A clay oven stands beside the wall. It has been used many times before, its surface darkened by years of cooking fires. Small pieces of wood are placed inside. Soon a small flame begins to glow. The fire flickers gently, casting warm light across the courtyard. Nearby, a woven basket filled with grain is brought forward. This grain will soon become flour. Using a large flat stone and a smaller grinding stone, the grain is slowly crushed back and forth, again and again. The sound of stone grinding against stone becomes one of the first sounds of the morning. It is a slow sound, a steady rhythm, a familiar part of daily life. Soon the grain has been ground into flour, water is added, and thick dough begins to form. The dough is shaped carefully by hand. Small round loaves placed gently inside the warm clay oven. As the fire grows stronger, the smell of baking bread begins to spread. The warm scent drifts slowly through the village. Bread was the most important food in ancient Egypt. Nearly every meal included bread. Alongside bread, many Egyptians also drank beer. But Egyptian beer was very different from the beer people drink today. It was thick, cloudy, and slightly sour. But it was also nutritious, and gave workers the energy needed for long days of labor. As the sun rises higher, more people begin stepping outside their homes. Farmers prepare their tools, wooden plows, baskets, ropes, and simple tools made from wood and stone. Craftsmen open the doors of their small workshops. Potters begin preparing soft clay, their hands shaping it slowly on spinning wheels. Weavers stretch long threads across wooden frames, preparing to weave linen cloth from flax fibers. Children begin to wake as well. Some help their families with small tasks, carrying baskets, or fetching water from the river. Others run through the narrow paths between homes, laughing, chasing each other, their footsteps echoing softly along the dusty ground. Along the river, boats begin to move. Fishermen push their small wooden boats into the water. Nets are carefully arranged. The quiet splash of oars touches the surface of the Nile. Some boats carry fish, others carry grain or clay jars. Some carry travelers moving between villages. The Nile serves as a road, connecting communities across the land. land. The rising sun spreads warm light across the landscape. Palm trees cast long shadows across the sand. The distant desert hills glow softly in the morning light. Morning has fully arrived. Life beside the Nile has begun once again, just as it has for thousands of years. Slowly, peacefully, and always in harmony with the river. Now the morning has fully arrived. The sun has climbed higher into the sky. Warm light spreads across the Nile Valley. The river shines softly, and the fields beside it begin to fill with quiet movement. Most people in ancient Egypt were farmers. Their lives were shaped by the land and by the water, and by the steady rhythm of the Nile. Imagine walking along a narrow path beside the river. The ground beneath your feet is firm, a little dusty, but not dry like the desert. Here, near the Nile, the soil feels darker, richer, more alive. A gentle breeze moves across the fields. You can hear the soft sound of leaves and the distant call of birds. A farmer walks ahead of you. He carries simple tools, wooden handles smooth from years of use. A woven basket hangs at his side. Inside the basket, seeds, small and light, yet full of promise. He moves slowly, not rushed, because farming here follows the seasons, and the seasons are guided by the river. In ancient Egypt, the year was shaped by three main seasons: a season of flooding, a season of planting and growing, and a season of harvest. When the Nile rose, the fields were covered, and the land rested beneath the water. When the water slowly retreated, it left behind dark fertile soil, and then it was time to plant. Now imagine the fields after the flood. The earth is soft, dark, and easy to work. The farmer steps onto the soil, and begins preparing the land. Some farmers use a simple plow, made of wood, pulled slowly by oxen. The oxen move steadily, their hooves pressing into the soft ground. The farmer guides the plow, making shallow lines in the soil. These lines will help the seeds settle, and help the water reach them. Other farmers work by hand, using simple tools, breaking up the earth, smoothing the surface, preparing small areas for planting. The work is quiet and repetitive, but peaceful, because it is familiar. It is the same work that families have done for generations. Wheat and barley are the most important crops. These grains will become bread and beer, the foundation of daily life. But the fields grow many other foods too: onions, garlic, lentils, beans, and lettuce. In small garden plots, cucumbers and melons may grow. Closer to homes, herbs might be planted, for flavor and for simple medicine. Along the edges of the fields, date palms rise tall and graceful. Their leaves move softly in the wind, providing shade and sweet fruit. Sometimes fig trees grow nearby, and vines that carry grapes. Now imagine the moment of planting. The farmer reaches into his basket. He takes a handful of seeds. Then with a gentle motion, he scatters them across the soil. The seeds fall softly, like tiny grains of sand. But these grains will become food. The farmer walks slowly, scattering seeds again and again, in a steady rhythm. Then another worker follows, using a tool to lightly cover the seeds. Or sometimes animals are guided across the field, their hooves pressing the seeds gently into the earth, so they will not be carried away by wind or birds. In ancient Egypt, water was everything. Even with the Nile nearby, farmers often needed to guide water into their fields. So they built irrigation channels, small canals, dug by hand, leading water from the river into farmland. The canals are simple but effective. They carry water slowly, like quiet veins, bringing life into the soil. Some farmers use a tool called a shadoof, a long wooden pole balanced on a frame, with a bucket hanging from one end, and a weight on the other. The farmer pulls the bucket down into the water. It fills, then he lifts, and the weight helps raise the bucket. Water pours into a small channel, and flows into the field. The motion is slow, gentle, and steady: down, fill, lift, pour. Again and again, the sound of water becomes part of the day. Soft splashes, quiet trickles, a calm rhythm that matches the work. As the morning becomes late morning, the sun grows warmer. The light becomes brighter. You can feel the heat building, but the farmers continue working steadily. Quietly, they pause sometimes to drink water or to drink a little beer, to share a small piece of bread. The food is simple, but it gives energy and it brings comfort. In the distance, you might hear the faint sound of a donkey carrying baskets or pulling a small cart. You might hear voices, soft and calm, people speaking as they work, sometimes singing, not loudly, but softly, in a way that helps the time pass. Farming is not just work, it is life, it is community, it is family. During the growing season, farmers watch the fields carefully. They check the soil, they guide water into the right places, they remove weeds, they protect crops from birds. Sometimes children help, running through the fields, clapping, or waving their arms to scare birds away from young plants. As the weeks pass, the fields begin to change. Green shoots rise from the soil, the plants grow taller. The land beside the Nile becomes a ribbon of green, a living line, cutting through the red desert. And then, when the time comes, harvest begins. Harvest is one of the busiest times of the year. The grain is tall, golden, moving like waves in the wind. Workers enter the fields with sickles, curved blades that fit in the hand. They cut the stalks, gather them into bundles, and tie them together. The work continues in steady lines across the field, step by step, bundle by bundle. The sound of cutting, the rustle of grain, the quiet movement of many hands. It becomes its own calm music. After cutting, the grain must be separated. The stalks are brought to a threshing area. Sometimes animals are guided over the bundles, their hooves crushing the stalks, separating grain from straw. Then the grain is tossed into the air so the wind can carry away the lighter chaff, while the heavier grain falls back down. This work is slow, but it is familiar, and it is done with care, because the harvest is precious. It will feed the village. It will be stored for the year ahead. Grain is carried to granaries, large storage buildings, where it is kept safe, protected from moisture, protected from pests, protected for the future. And when the grain is safely stored, there is a quiet sense of relief, because once again, the Nile has provided. Once again, the cycle has continued. Now imagine walking back toward the village. The sun is higher, the air is warmer, but a breeze still moves across the river. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. The Nile flows steadily beside you, calm, unhurried, as it has always been. And in that calm, you can feel why this river was so important, why it shaped everything, because as long as the Nile flowed, life could continue, quietly, steadily, one day at a time. Now imagine the morning slowly becoming late morning. The sun climbs higher, light spreads across the village, and the air begins to feel warmer. The farmers are in the fields, working steadily, but in the village, another kind of work is beginning, the work of the craftsmen, the quiet hands that shape daily life. Walk slowly through the village paths. The ground is dusty beneath your feet. Mud brick walls glow softly in the sunlight, and you can hear gentle sounds. A door opening, footsteps, soft voices, the distant call of a bird. Near one home, a potter is already awake. His workshop is simple, a shaded area beside a wall, a low table, a few tools, and a pile of soft clay. The clay comes from the Nile, from the riverbank where the soil is dark and smooth. The potter sits down and places his hands on the clay. The wheel begins to spin, slowly at first, then smoothly. The clay turns in a quiet circle. His hands press gently, shaping the clay into a tall jar. His fingers guide the form, carefully, patiently. The jar grows upward. The walls become thinner. The shape becomes smooth and even. The movement is calm, almost like meditation. motion. The wheel spins, the hands guide, the clay transforms, one slow breath at a time. Nearby, another craftsman works with wood. A carpenter. Wood is valuable in Egypt. Large forests are rare, so wood is used carefully and shaped with skill. The carpenter holds a wooden piece against a simple tool, a blade, a chisel, a stone used for smoothing. The sounds are gentle, a soft scrape, a quiet tap, a slow brushing motion. He shapes the wood into a handle, or a small stool, or a piece that will become part of a boat. The work is steady and quiet. In another small space, a weaver prepares linen thread. Linen is made from flax. Flax plants grow near the river. Their fibers are dried, separated, and spun into thread. The thread is light, strong, and smooth. The weaver stretches threads across a wooden frame, lines that look almost like soft light in the sun. Then the weaving begins, over, under, a gentle rhythm, a calm pattern. The cloth slowly grows, soft linen, perfect for the warm Egyptian climate. You can imagine how this linen feels, light against the skin, cool, comfortable, a simple comfort in a hot land. As the day continues, more people begin to gather, not in the fields, but near a small open space, a place where trade happens, a market. Markets in ancient Egypt are not loud like modern markets. They are busy, but in a calm way. People speak, they barter, they exchange goods, but the feeling is steady and familiar. Walk closer to the marketplace. You see simple tables, woven mats laid on the ground, baskets, clay jars, bundles of vegetables. A fisherman arrives from the river, carrying fish in a basket. The fish glisten in the sunlight, fresh from the Nile. He sets the basket down, and speaks softly with a merchant. Nearby, a farmer brings onions, garlic, beans, and lettuce, green and fresh, still holding the smell of the soil and the river. A woman brings dates, dark and sweet, packed carefully in a woven basket. The smell is warm, like sun and sugar. A potter brings finished jars. Some are wide and round, some are tall and narrow, some are small bowls, perfect for holding oil, or water, or grain. A few jars are painted, simple patterns, lines, dots, shapes that feel calm and familiar. Someone brings linen cloth, folded neatly, soft and pale, light enough to move gently in the breeze. A jewelry maker displays small items, copper rings, beads, colorful stones, tiny pieces that catch the light. Not loud, not bright, just a quiet sparkle, a small beauty in the middle of everyday life. In ancient Egypt, money was not always used in the way we think today. Often people traded directly, grain for fish, cloth for pottery, vegetables for tools. Everything had value, and value was understood through use. A jar could store water, a basket could carry grain, a piece of linen could become clothing, or a simple blanket. Trade is part of daily life, a calm exchange, a gentle flow, like the river itself. As you stand in the marketplace, you hear quiet sounds, soft voices, the rustle of baskets, the light clink of pottery, footsteps moving slowly across the ground. A child laughs somewhere nearby, then grows quiet again. A breeze moves through the open space, carrying the faint smell of bread from nearby homes, and the clean scent of river water. Sometimes a donkey passes, walking slowly, carrying goods on its back. The donkey's steps are steady, patient, and unhurried. The market is not only for goods, it is also a place for people, a place where neighbors meet, where news travels, where someone asks about a family member, where someone shares a small story, a small laugh, a quiet moment in a world that moves slowly and returns again each day. As the sun climbs toward the middle of the sky, the air grows warmer, shadows become shorter. Some people begin to return home, carrying baskets, carrying jars, carrying bundles of cloth. The marketplace slowly becomes quieter, not because it ends, but because it shifts, like the light, like the wind, like the river. And as the village continues through the day, the craftsmen return to their work. The potter shapes another vessel. The carpenter smooths another piece of wood. The weaver continues the gentle pattern, over, under, a calm rhythm, a quiet world held together by simple work and steady hands. And the slow-flowing Nile nearby. The day continues. The sun is higher now, the light is bright, and the air feels warm. In the village, the pace of life shifts again. The busiest morning work begins to slow, not because life stops, but because the heat of the day asks everyone to move more gently. Imagine walking through the village paths. The mud brick walls hold warmth, but the shade beside them feels cool. A breeze moves through narrow spaces softly, like a quiet whisper. Somewhere nearby, you can hear the Nile, not loudly, but steadily, a calm presence in the background. Many people return home for a simple meal, a quiet pause in the day. Inside a small home, the air is dimmer, cooler. Shadows fall softly across the floor. A clay jar stands in the corner, filled with water from the river. The water is not icy cold, but it is refreshing, a small comfort in the warm day. In the courtyard, someone prepares food. Nothing complicated, nothing rushed, just the familiar work of daily life. Bread is brought out, simple loaves, baked earlier in the morning. The crust is firm, the inside is soft. A piece breaks away easily. A quiet sound, a gentle tear of bread. Alongside the bread, there may be onions, or lentils, or beans cooked slowly. Sometimes a small bowl of vegetables, cucumbers, greens, simple foods grown beside the Nile. Sometimes fish, if it has been caught that day. Fish from the river can be cooked over a small fire, or dried, or salted, so it can last longer. The smell of cooking is soft, not heavy, just a warm hit in the air, a simple reminder of home. A family gathers, they sit close together, on low stools, or on woven mats. They share food, not in silence, but in a gentle way. Quiet conversation, soft voices, small pauses, a calm rhythm. Outside, the village continues, but more slowly now. Children may rest in the shade or play quietly, a slower kind of play, because the sun is strong, the air is warm. Even the animals move more gently. A donkey stands in the shade, breathing slowly. A goat rests near a wall. A dog lies on the ground, eyes half closed. The whole village seems to soften, and somewhere beyond the homes, the Nile keeps moving. Steady, unhurried, as if it is reminding everyone there is time. There is always time. In the afternoon, some work continues, but in calmer ways. A woman might mend linen cloth, her fingers moving slowly, thread passing through fabric, a simple motion, again and again. Someone might grind a little more grain, not all at once, just enough for the next meal. A potter might check pieces drying in the shade, touching the clay gently, making sure it does not crack. A carpenter might smooth a wooden handle, quiet scraping, soft brushing, a steady sound, like a lullaby made from work. In the hottest part of the day, many people rest. They sit in shade, or lie down inside the cooler rooms. Some close their eyes, not sleeping deeply, just resting, listening to the world, listening to the breeze, listening to distant footsteps, listening to the faint sounds of the river. If you stand quietly, you can hear many small sounds, a palm leaf moving, a bird calling once, then quiet again, a far-off voice, then silence, and always the soft sense of the Nile nearby. In ancient Egypt, the afternoon is not a time for rushing, it is a time for patience, a time for quiet, a time for steady breathing, a time for letting the heat pass, and letting the day move forward naturally. Now imagine sitting near the riverbank, not far from the village. The ground sand is warm, but the breeze off the water feels cooler. The Nile shines onto the bright sky, small ripples moving across the surface. A boat passes slowly. The sail catches a little wind, then relaxes again. The movement is gentle, almost hypnotic. Water touches the shore softly again and again. The sound is calm. The sound is steady, like slow breathing, like a quiet heartbeat. You can imagine why this place felt timeless, why people return to the river again and again, to work, to drink, to travel, to rest, because the Nile was not only a source of life, it was also a source of calm, a steady presence, a quiet rhythm. And as the afternoon slowly begins to soften, as the light becomes slightly warmer, as shadows begin to stretch a little longer, the village prepares to move into the later part of the day. Slowly, gently, one calm moment at a time. As the afternoon slowly passes, the light begins to soften. The sun is still warm, but the sharp heat of midday begins to ease. A gentle breeze returns, moving through the palm trees, and across the river. In the village, people begin to prepare for the later part of the day. Some return to work, but in a calmer way. Others take a quiet moment to visit a small shrine, or to walk toward a nearby temple. Religion in ancient Egypt was not only for special days. It was part of daily life, like bread, like water, like the steady flow of the Nile. Now imagine walking along a path that leads toward a temple. The ground beneath your feet is firm, a little dusty, and warm from the sun. Ahead, stone walls rise quietly, tall, steady, and cool in the shade. The temple feels calm, even from a distance. As you approach, the air seems to change. The sounds of the village grow softer, footsteps slow, voices become quieter. The world feels more still. At the entrance, large stone columns stand in a row, their surfaces carved with lines and symbols, figures of gods, figures of people, scenes of offerings, and long rows of ancient writing. The carvings catch the light and cast gentle shadows across the stone. Inside, the temple is cooler. The walls are thick, the light is dim, and the air holds the soft scent of incense, a faint sweetness, a quiet smoke that drifts upward slowly, as if it is part of the temple's breathing. In this place, people feel the presence of the divine. The Egyptians believed the world was filled with powerful forces: the sun, the river, the harvest, the wind, life, and death. They believed these forces were guided by gods, and that the gods helped keep the world in balance. One of the most important ideas in ancient Egypt was Ma'at. Ma'at meant truth, order, harmony, and balance. It was the feeling that the world was held together, not by force, but by steady calm. Ma'at was like the river, always moving, always returning, always giving life. The Egyptians believed that to live well, a person should live in Ma'at, to speak truth, to act fairly, to respect others, to do what is right, quietly, without arrogance, without anger, and without unnecessary harm. Now imagine a priest moving through the temple. He walks slowly, not rushed. He wears clean linen, light and soft. His footsteps are quiet on the stone floor. He carries a small bowl and a little bundle of incense. The ritual is simple, but meaningful. He pauses at a small altar. He places an offering, bread, fruit, or a small bowl of beer. Then he lights the incense. A thin line of smoke rises and curls gently in the dim light. He speaks softly, words of respect, words of gratitude, words asking for harmony in the world. Outside, the sun continues its slow path across the sky. Inside, the temple remains calm, still, and cool. Not every person entered the deepest parts of a temple. Many areas were for priests and for rituals, but ordinary people still lived close to religion. In homes, homes. Small shrines might hold simple figures or small images of protective gods. A family might offer a little bread or pour a little water. A quiet moment, a small prayer, a gentle wish for safety and for peace. Now imagine the river again, because for Egypt, the river and the gods were connected. The sun god Ra was believed to travel across the sky each day, bringing light and warmth. At night, Ra traveled through the underworld, then returned at dawn, rising again, as if the world was being gently restarted. Day after day, the god Osiris was connected to life after death, to the quiet hope that life continues, not as a loud victory, but as a calm journey. The Egyptians did not always think of death as an ending. They often thought of it as a crossing, a passage, a continuing path, like traveling on the Nile from one place to another. And because of this belief, they valued peace, they valued balance, they valued a life lived in Ma'at. Now picture a small festival day, not a wild celebration, but a calm gathering. People bring flowers, they bring food, they carry small lamps, they walk slowly toward the temple. The light of late afternoon makes everything feel gentle. Children hold hands, parents guide them, old friends greet one another quietly. A musician might play a soft rhythm, a simple beat on a small drum, or the gentle sound of a flute. Not loud, just enough to feel like a heartbeat, like a slow breath. Inside the temple courtyard, offerings are placed, incense drifts upward, and the air holds a quiet sense of togetherness, a feeling that life is connected. People, land, river, sky, all held together in one calm world. Inside the temple, there are quiet corridors, narrow passages, and rooms where the light becomes even softer. Stone floors feel cool beneath the feet. The air is still, as if the thick walls hold the silence. On the walls, painted scenes show daily life, harvests, boats on the river, and offerings placed before the gods. Colors remain red, blue, gold, faded a little by time, but still calm, still beautiful. A statue may stand in a small chamber, carved stone, smooth and steady, its face calm, its eyes looking forward, not demanding, not angry, just present, a quiet reminder of protection and of order. Sometimes a small pool of water sits within a courtyard, water reflecting the sky, water reflecting columns, the surface barely moving, a mirror of calm. A priest might dip his hands into the water, a simple cleansing, a quiet preparation. Then he steps slowly forward, lighting incense again, letting the smoke rise in a thin soft line. If you listen closely, you might hear a distant chant, very quiet, almost like a whisper, words repeated slowly, words meant to steady the heart, words meant to keep Ma'at in the world. Outside, the light continues to change, the sun moves lower, and the shadows in the temple grow longer. The day becomes softer, and the mind becomes softer too, because places like this invite calm, they invite slow breathing, they invite patience, they invite quiet attention. And even if you do not know every god's name or every ancient word, you can still feel what the Egyptians valued: a peaceful life, a steady home, a good heart, a calm truth, a world held together by harmony, by balance, by Ma'at. Now imagine leaving the temple, walking back toward the village. The sun is lower now, shadows stretch longer across the ground, the air feels softer, cooler. The sounds of the village return, but still everything feels calm, because the day is moving toward evening, and evening in Egypt is gentle. The heat fades, the breeze strengthens slightly, and the world begins to slow down. As you walk, you pass small homes again. You see linen cloth hanging to dry. You see a child carrying a small jar of water. You see a woman sweeping the courtyard with a simple broom. Slow strokes back and forth, a calm motion. You hear a goat bleat softly, then quiet again. In the distance you can see the Nile, still flowing, still steady, still alive, and you can feel that ancient idea, ma'at, balance, harmony, a quiet order that makes the world feel safe. Now take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax again. Let your mind settle, as if you are walking back from the temple, through the warm evening light, toward a calm home beside the Nile. And as the sun continues to set, allow yourself to drift slowly, gently, one calm moment at a time. The river is near, the stars will come soon, and everything feels quiet and safe. Now the evening begins to approach, but before night arrives, the Nile is still awake, and the river still carries quiet movement. Imagine standing on the bank, watching the water flow past, slow and steady, a gentle current, a soft shimmer of light. The Nile is not only a source of food, it is also a road, a long calm road made of water, connecting villages, connecting towns, connecting people. In ancient Egypt, travel by river was often easier than travel by land. The desert is wide and dry and difficult, but the river offers a smooth path, so boats become part of daily life. Now picture a small wooden boat near the shore. Its sides are low, its surface worn smooth by use. A bundle of reeds rests inside, a few clay jars, a basket of grain, and a coil of rope. The boat rocks gently, as the water touches it again and again. Two men step in carefully, their feet quiet on the wood. One holds a long pole, the other checks the rope and the goods. Then with a slow push, the boat moves away from the shore. A soft sound, water sliding around the hull. The boat drifts, then begins to glide forward. If the wind is gentle, a square sail is raised. The sail catches the breeze, and the boat moves with almost no effort, quiet and smooth. If the wind is calm, an oar may be used. Slow strokes, one, then another. The sound is soft, a small splash, then silence, a rhythm that feels like breathing. Now imagine what the boat carries: grain from one village, clay jars from another, linen cloth folded neatly, bundles of onions and garlic, dried fish, a small jar of oil, sometimes simple tools, wooden handles, stone blades, a roll of rope, practical goods, everyday goods, the kind of things that make life steady. The Nile carries them all, not quickly, but reliably. Now imagine passing another boat. It moves in the opposite direction, sails low, a man sitting calmly near the front, his eyes half focused on the river ahead, not worried, not rushed, just moving with the day. Boats pass each other often, and when they do, there is a small moment of connection, a nod, a soft greeting, a familiar face, or a stranger who still feels part of the same world, because everyone who travels the Nile shares the same road, the same water, the same gentle current. Now imagine traveling farther, past fields, past palm trees, past small villages tucked beside the river. You can see children near the shore collecting reeds or helping with nets. You can see women washing cloth, kneeling near the water, moving slowly, rinsing, squeezing, letting the fabric drip. You can see fishermen pulling in a net. The net rises slowly, water streams down, a few fish flash in the light, then disappear into a basket. You can see a farmer leading an ox along the river bank. The ox moves steadily, its breath slow, its hooves pressing into the soil. You can see birds, white and graceful, standing in shallow water, then lifting into the air, wings beating slowly, a calm motion against the sky. The Nile is full of these quiet scenes, and as you travel, the world feels gentle, like everything is moving at the same pace. Now imagine arriving at a larger town, not loud, not crowded like a modern city, but busier than a village. More boats, more baskets, more movement. A small dock made of wood, people stepping on and off boats, goods being carried, bundles placed down, then lifted again. A merchant checks a clay seal on a a jar. Another counts sacks of grain. A worker ties rope around a bundle of linen. Everything is practical. Everything is calm, because this is ordinary life. And ordinary life repeats day after day. Now imagine a traveler, someone moving between towns. He carries a small bag, a few pieces of bread, a jar of water. He sits in the boat, looking at the river, watching the shoreline drift past. Palm trees, fields, sand, then fields again. The view changes slowly, and the slow change feels soothing, because nothing here moves too fast. The river encourages patience. Now imagine the sounds: the water, the wind, a quiet creak of wood, a soft flap of sail, distant voices from the shore, then quiet again. Sometimes a bird call, sometimes the splash of an oar. The Nile creates a gentle soundtrack, a steady background, perfect for a calm mind. Now imagine the smell. The river carries a fresh scent, a mix of water, wet soil, and green plants. It is different from the dry desert air. It feels alive, and as the boat moves, the breeze carries that scent toward you, cool and clean. Now imagine the light. Late afternoon light becomes softer, warmer. The sun begins to lower, and the river turns golden. Reflections shimmer, like a path of light on the water. Boats glide through that light, slowly, quietly, and the world begins to prepare for evening. A boat approaches the village again. It returns to the shore. The pole touches the ground. A gentle push. The boat slides into place. Rope is tied. Goods are lifted out. Baskets carried along the path. The day's travel ends, not with excitement, but with calm completion, because tomorrow the river will be there again, and the boats will move again. The Nile will continue to connect everything and everyone. Sometimes the boats carry stone blocks cut from quarries, heavy and pale in the sunlight. They rest low in the water, and the boat moves carefully, slowly, with many hands working together. On other days, a boat may carry papyrus, bundles of tall river plants cut near the water, tied together, carried to be dried, pressed, and turned into smooth sheets. Papyrus becomes writing, and writing becomes memory. In towns, scribes sit in shade with a reed pen in hand, ink dark as night. They record grain, they record trade, they record names. Their work is calm, careful, and precise. A soft scratch of pen on papyrus, a quiet sound, like leaves brushing in the wind. In the late afternoon, shadows lengthen along the banks. Palm trees stretch dark shapes across the soil. The light becomes softer, and the air becomes gentler. Boats may slow, choosing a safe place to rest, a quiet inlet, a calm bend in the river, a place where reeds grow tall, and the water is still. Someone eats a piece of bread, someone drinks a little water, someone looks up at the sky, waiting for the first star, and when the first star appears, it feels like a gentle sign that the day is moving toward night. And as you imagine these boats, and these slow journeys, allow your thoughts to follow the water, moving forward without effort, drifting, floating, always calm, always steady. Near the shore, reeds sway softly. They whisper as the breeze passes through them. A frog calls once, then silence. A small ripple spreads where a fish turns beneath the surface, and far above, the sky looks wide and open. Even in daylight, it feels endless. The river carries that feeling, a sense of space, a sense of quiet, a sense that everything will continue gently and peacefully. As Nile flows, your mind grows quiet. Now evening settles gently over the Nile. The sun is low, the light becomes warm and soft. Shadows stretch across the river bank, and the busy sounds of the day begin to fade. Imagine returning to the village. The paths are calmer now, footsteps are slower, voices are quieter. A light breeze moves through palm leaves, and you can smell cooking fires in the distance. Inside the village, families begin preparing for the night, not in a hurried way, but in a steady and familiar way. A clay jar of water is placed near the doorway, linen cloth is folded, tools are set aside, baskets are hung up, and the day is allowed to end. In a courtyard, A small fire glows. Its light flickers softly against mud brick walls. A simple meal is shared, bread, a few vegetables, perhaps a little fish. Nothing heavy, nothing loud, just quiet food and quiet company. Someone breaks bread slowly. Another person pours water. A child leans against a parent's shoulder. The air feels gentler now, cooler than the afternoon, comfortable. Above the rooftops, the sky deepens from gold to blue, then from blue to a darker shade, and one by one, stars begin to appear. The first star is always a small surprise, a tiny point of light, then another and another. Soon the sky becomes a wide field of stars. In ancient Egypt, people looked at the sky often. They watched the sun rise. They watched it set. They watched the moon change shape. And they watched the stars, because the sky felt connected to life. The sky felt steady. The sky felt eternal. Now imagine the Nile at night. The river becomes darker, but it does not disappear. It reflects starlight. It reflects moonlight. Soft ripples move across the surface, like slow breathing. The sound of water touching the shore is gentle. Again and again, a boat may still pass very quietly, a shadow moving across the water, then fading into the dark. On the river bank, reeds sway. They whisper softly as the breeze passes through them. A frog calls once, then quiet again. A night bird moves somewhere in the distance. The village settles further. Some people climb to the flat roofs of their homes. The air is cooler up there. The breeze is stronger, and the view of the sky is wide and open. Others rest inside, where the thick walls hold the coolness of the evening. A small oil lamp glows near a doorway. Its light is warm and calm. Inside one home, a family prepares to sleep. A woven mat is placed on the floor. A simple blanket of linen or cloth is pulled close. The room is dim, quiet, safe. The day is complete. In ancient Egypt, night was not only darkness, it was also rest, a pause, a chance to recover, a chance to breathe. And tomorrow, the river would be there again. The fields would be there again. The boats would move again. The market would return again. Life would continue. Steady, quiet, predictable. Now allow your mind to linger in this peaceful scene. Imagine the cool air on your skin. Imagine the soft sound of the Nile. Imagine the distant glow of a small fire. Imagine the calm rhythm of a village at rest. You do not need to think hard. You do not need to remember details. You can simply listen and drift. If your thoughts wander, that is perfectly fine. Let them wander like the river, slowly, gently, without effort. Now take a slow breath in and let it go. Take another slow breath and let it go. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel your jaw relax. Feel the muscles of your face become calm. Imagine the stars above you, endless and quiet. Imagine the river beside you, steady and gentle. Imagine the desert beyond, silent and still. In this ancient world, the night is peaceful and you are safe. You might imagine the Milky Way stretching across the sky, a pale river of light above the dark river below. In ancient Egypt, people sometimes saw the heavens as another world, a quiet place of order, a place where the sun traveled, a place where stars kept their steady patterns. They did not rush. They did not change quickly. They simply returned, night after night, season after season. That steadiness brought comfort. It reminded people that life had rhythm, and that tomorrow would come. Now imagine someone on a rooftop, lying on a woven mat, looking up at the stars. The air is cool, a little dry, and very clean. A soft breeze touches the face. The smell of river water is faint, mixed with a warm scent of mud brick, and a hint of smoke from fires that are now fading. In the distance, you might hear a quiet animal sound, a goat shifting, a donkey breathing. Then silence again. Somewhere closer, a small insect sings briefly, then stops. The night feels spacious, open, and calm. If you look toward the river, you may see a thin line of light, moonlight on water, or starlight catching small ripples. The river never fully sleeps. It keeps moving, quietly, as if it is watching over the land. Now imagine the people of the village, the mother who baked bread, the father who worked in the fields, the potter who shaped clay into smooth jars, the weaver who made linen in gentle patterns, the fisherman who cast a net into the river. All of them have slowed now, all of them are resting. Their hands are still, their voices are quiet. Their day is complete, and in that completion, there is peace. In ancient Egypt, so much depended on simple things: water, soil, sunlight, shade, bread, and rest. The great monuments of stone may last for thousands of years, but the true heart of life was always these small moments: a meal shared, a breeze in the evening, a lamp glowing softly, a quiet roof under the stars. Now, if your mind wants to think, let it think softly. If it wants to drift, let it drift. You do not need to hold on to anything. You can let each thought pass by, like a boat passing in the distance, seen for a moment, then gone. If you notice your breathing, that is enough. In and out, slow and steady. If you notice your body, that is enough. Heavy, comfortable, relaxed. If you notice the quiet, that is enough, because quiet is what carries you into sleep. Now imagine the temple again. Far away in the darkness, stone walls cooling under the night air, incense gone, candles dim, everything resting. The feeling of Ma'at remains: balance, order, harmony, not as a loud command, but as a gentle shape in the world, a calm arrangement, a steady flow, like the Nile. Now imagine a final scene: a small lamp inside a home, its flame very small, almost ready to go out. The light is warm, soft, and quiet. A family sleeps nearby, breathing slowly. The lamp flickers once, then settles, and outside, the stars continue to shine. The river continues to move, and the desert holds its silence. Now, as the village sleeps, we can let the story become even quieter. The Nile continues to flow softly, unhurried. It carries reflections of starlight. It carries cool air across the water, and it carries the feeling of calm into the darkness. You might imagine the sound of a distant oar, a soft splash, then silence. You might imagine the faint creak of wood from a small boat tied to the shore. You might imagine palm leaves brushing gently against each other. You might imagine the quiet rustle of linen as someone turns in their sleep. All small sounds, all soft sounds, all soothing sounds. Now let your mind drift away from the village, drift out over the river, drift along the water's surface, moving slowly northward, past fields that are now dark and quiet, past palm trees that stand like gentle silhouettes, past small homes where lamps have gone dim, past reeds that sway in the night breeze. The river guides you. It moves without rushing. It moves without stopping. It moves the way you can move into sleep, slowly, naturally, without effort. And if you want, you can imagine a simple thought, a simple phrase: the Nile is calm. The night is calm. I am calm. The Nile is calm. The night is calm. I am calm. Let the words be soft. Let them fade, like footsteps in sand, like ripples on water. Now the sky grows darker, the stars grow brighter. The moonlight, if it is there, spreads gently across the river, silver and quiet, and the world becomes still. This is the perfect moment to let go of the day, to let go of thinking, to let go of effort, to simply rest, to simply be, and to sleep. Thank you for joining this quiet journey into ancient Egypt. Thank you for drifting into history. Now you can close your eyes, and allow your breathing to slow in and out, slowly, gently, comfortably. The river flows, the stars shine, and you can drift peacefully into sleep. Good night.